Welcome to the Rocky Garza Show, where we explore the collision of a deeply meaningful life and a wildly impactful career. I'm your host, Rocky Garza, and with over a decade of experience as a coach, consultant, and keynote speaker to many Fortune 500 companies, I'm here to share personal stories and expert advice to help you gain clarity, build confidence, and discover that you too can build the life you actually want. Whether you're a high achiever looking for a more full life or a leader striving for professional success with purpose, this podcast was designed with you in mind. Welcome back to the Rocky Garza Show. I'm your host, Rocky Garza, and today I want to talk about what do we do when we feel stuck? What is the mechanism that we can have? Is there a way that we can help ourselves get unstuck? And what I mean by saying that when we're stuck is when we get caught in our head, we feel overwhelmed, we feel burdened by the amount of decisions. There's so many things we need to do. And what do we do in that scenario? And what I want to talk about today is we're going to call it the 4A framework. A as in apple, the 4A framework. And really what I want to talk about is how do we give ourselves some kind of mechanism? How do we give ourselves some kind of way to be able to say, how do I find myself? And when I feel stuck, how can I become unstuck? And so here's what we're going to talk about. Now, in order for us to do that, and I'll introduce the 4A's to you here in just a minute, I want to talk about it this way first. Is that when we're overwhelmed, when we're frustrated, when we feel caught, sometimes overwhelmed feels like there's too many, sometimes overwhelmed feels like there's just one singular. Wherever it is you fall on that range, I want you to be able to think through, if there was a way, if there was a simple framework you could walk yourself through, what would that be and what would that look like? And so today our 4A framework is this: awareness, acceptance, action, and accountability. Again, one more time, the 4A framework. If you are somebody who feels stuck, you feel like there are moments where you get paralysis of analysis or you get overwhelmed by the amount of decisions, I want you to go to the 4A framework and we're going to walk through. And the 4A's are awareness, acceptance, action, and accountability. And the reason this is valuable, the reason this to me this is important for us to be able to move sort of from emotional, maybe sometimes feel like emotional instability into clarity, right? Or sometimes it's just operational instability into clarity, from reaction to ownership, right? From the ability to be aware of something, the ability to take action on something. It is to walk through these 4A's. Now, A number one is this: awareness. Awareness means what is actually true. Not good, not bad, not positive, not negative, sort of a spin on space, if you're familiar with what we've ever talked about before or not. Awareness. What is true right now? This is where we begin to name what is actually happening. What is the thing that's right in front of us right now? And the reason for me, this one is first, is because I think we have to give ourselves the ability to be able to say and ask ourselves, what am I feeling? What is actually happening? What's the story I am telling myself? And all these are pulls and pieces of other methodologies, identity mapping from the confidence method. And as we look at all these things, number one is awareness. Now, I want to spend a little extra time on awareness compared to our other ones today for this reason. I believe at times we have become a generation of people. And when I say generation, I'm not spanning just a specific age demographic. Let's go 25 to 45. We cover a couple of generations there. But sometimes it feels as though we've become a generation that is obsessed with awareness. We become obsessed with wanting to know why. And then we sort of pause as though our understanding and being aware will actually change something. Now, do I think that awareness is an incredible catalyst to change? Yes. Do I think that awareness in and of itself is a significant enough thing that is going to cause you to naturally change? No. And I love Simon Sinek, and it was one of the first business or leadership books I ever read was Start With Why. And I was like, oh my gosh, this guy is speaking my language. However, I think many of us say we want to start with why, but we never take another step. We want to start, end, finish, write the check, sign off, get the contract, and retire with why. And I think that there's something wrong with our ability to want to know more about it. However, I want to challenge you. Do you ever get stuck at awareness? Do you ever get stuck with just identifying why? Do you ever feel like for you that it's just singular, right? That there's just this one thing I'm going after. And now that I know everything, now that I know why that happened, it won't ever happen again. Now that I know why they treat me that way, I'll move around the next direction. Now that I know, and rarely, Rarely do I find that that's the case. So that's my first challenge to you. Then number one is awareness, and ask yourself, do you ever get stuck and satisfied with your ability to know, but nothing changes? Now, if we want to take the next step, we want to jump into our second A, that is acceptance. Meaning, what part of this do I need to own? And what I mean by that is not just the part you need to own that's your responsibility. I'm saying, what part of that do you need to own that you may recognize is out of your control and you cannot change? See, I think ownership is as equally important to recognize what is mine and in my hand as it is for the ability to recognize what is yours and in your hand. So if number one is awareness, number two is acceptance. What part is in my control? What patterns do I see in myself? What have I been avoiding? What have I been doing that's on me that I've said, I'm just going to pretend as though it's all their fault, right? See, awareness says this: I feel frustrated that my teammate is going around me to go talk to my boss, and it makes me feel like my leadership isn't respected. That's awareness. Okay, I'm aware that I have this thing. The person who's on my team keeps going around me and talking directly to the CEO, and it's really frustrating to me. But here's what acceptance looks like. Acceptance says, actually, I don't know if I've ever really communicated to them. I don't know if I've ever told them how I prefer communication should work, and I just assumed that they would know. But it's proving to me that maybe they didn't. You follow me? See, awareness says, I don't like that. I'm done. Acceptance says, maybe I never actually said what it is that I wanted to begin with. Step 3, action. What can I do now that aligns with not only who I am, but who I want to continue to become? How do I take what I am aware of, what I have accepted responsibility for, where I recognize my accountability is, and now what am I going to do? This is where we move. This is where we ask, what is the best version of me do next? What is the truest version of me do next? I don't need a 6-month plan. I don't need a 90-day breakdown. I don't need 64 tasks. I'm saying, what is the next right step for me to take? What's one thing I can do today? What's one conversation that needs to be clarified? What's one conversation that needs to happen? If we say that I recognize this communication style and I don't really like it, I recognize maybe it's my fault. I didn't say anything. You know what action says? I'm going to go have a quick conversation. I'm going to ask for a little clarity around expectations and what we're doing calmly and clearly and professionally. And I'm going to make sure they even know what it is that I'm thinking. Maybe I have been living my leadership journey under an assumption rather than recognizing the 4 A's. Do you find yourself frustrated in leadership because you have potentially been leading through assumptions rather than being aware of what it is, creating acceptance for what's necessary, and taking action for what you wanted? I don't know if that's the case for you, but I would deeply encourage you to ask yourself. And the fourth, accountability. How can I stay consistent with this? How can I let someone know that this is in fact what I want? Reminder, accountability is simply being reminded of what we want. How can we then be reminded of what we want so that moving forward, we have the ability to say, who can I tell this is going to keep me honest? Who can I tell what it is that I really want? How am I going to track and measure this if it's something that I need? When will I check on it again to see if I'm even moving in the direction that I want to move, right? So we've recognized the communication style. We recognized we didn't say anything. We went and had a conversation about it. And so now, you know what? I'm going to bring this up with my coach next week. I'm going to talk about how do I track to improve issues. I'm going to talk about my quarterly performance reviews that I do. And I'm going to ask myself, is quarterly enough? And Gallup did a study that they said they surveyed the managers and they surveyed their leader or the people that they had managed. And in this survey, they asked those that were being managed, 75% said, I wish I got more coaching and feedback from my supervisor. And 75% of supervisors said that they believe they were giving sufficient feedback. Somewhere the math is not mathing. And so what I want you to do is ask yourself, where do you find yourself stuck? And how can you slow down just for a moment in order to walk through and process the 4 A's, utilizing the 4A framework of awareness, acceptance, action, and accountability? And what can you do with it? Can you solve a conflict at work? Can it change the way that we have a parenting moment at home? Can we help fix a breakdown in our relationship personally, professionally, romantically? Or even just a day where maybe we can't even name what it is that we feel, but we know we feel overwhelmed. I want to tell you that the 4A framework is not about solving every problem in your life you've ever had. It's about learning how to change the way that we think so that we can move forward with the kind of intention that we want. And so I want to encourage you, get your journal out. Open up a new doc, go to OneNote, TwoNote, SixNote, Evernote, whatever it is that you do. Pick one thing that's bothering you, big or small, and just try it. Just try the 4A framework and say, number one, what am I aware of? Truth, not good, not bad, not defensive, not being right, not being wrong. What are you aware of? How can I accept what is real and true and what my responsibility is and what do I do with that? And then how do I find myself taking the kind of action that I want and creating the accountability necessary? If you feel stuck, if you hear this and you're resonating, you're going, man, this is me right now. I want to invite you to join me for my leadership session this month. You can go to rockygarza.com/confidence. You can RSVP and hold your spot there. I would love to have you. We're going to talk through this exact thing. We're going to talk through and look at what are some of those things that are keeping us from getting to the place that it is we want to be. I would love to see you there. I would love for you to practice your 4A framework. And if you do, if you write it down, snap a picture of it, tag us online, tag me on whatever platform you're on, hashtag 4A framework. Let me know what it is. I want to see it. I want to encourage you. I want you to be reminded that somebody is in your corner. Thank you so much for joining us again on the Rocky Garza Show, and we'll see you soon.